I'm taking a look at 10 Sega Genesis games that won't break the bank. Even today, you can still pick up a lot of solid titles on the cheap. And I'm not talking about sports games either. Well, okay, there's one example of one, but you'll understand why when I explain it. I'm Will, let's get this video started. It may be a Mortal Kombat ripoff, but it's certainly one of the best. At such a low price, you can have one of the more solid tournament fighters on the system. Eternal Champions is colorful, has interesting characters and backgrounds, and is a great two-player head-to-head game. Is it perfect? No, not really. The game is challenging in single-player mode, especially having to fight enemies again should you lose a match. And the computer cheats, using special moves when its chi bar or stamina bar is gone. But it's a steal at $3. Plus the overkills are just plain fun to watch. Columns is one of the oldest on this list, but could very well be the most addictive. In my opinion, it's the best puzzler on the console, and you get a two-player mode that was sorely lacking in Nintendo's offering that was Tetris. Matching at least 3 jewels in any direction has never been more fun. Even if you don't like puzzle games that much, this game is too cheap to pass up. Light gun games aren't everyone's cup of tea, but I like this one. Blasting away crooks and civilians is always a good time, and it's a highly addictive arcade port. Bring along a friend too, because it's two-player friendly, which is always a bonus. Sure, the digitized graphics don't look that great nowadays, hell, it was definitely a product of its time back then, but even with a standard controller, you'll have some fun. And the music is your typical Konami slam dancing goodness, no kidding, it's great. This isn't a AAA game by any stretch, but it's a B-movie-esque good time and good filler for your gaming rotation.
He's on fire!
Sometimes a sports game comes along and becomes an instant classic. Well, they did that twice with NBA Jam and this cart, NBA Jam Tournament Edition. It's one of those easy to pick up and play, highly addictive arcade ports that's just hard to put down. The best thing added here are the substitutions. It opens up the game to more strategic play, deciding when to bring in your key players or not, since injuries could make them slow and unplayable. Top it off with more cheats and expanded rosters, you won't go wrong getting a copy of Tournament Edition.
He's on fire!
Licensed titles were always a mixed bag on any system, but Aladdin on the Genesis really set the gold standard for great action platformers that had to follow it. In my opinion, it was a showstopper. Some say this version is the superior one over the Super Nintendo version, but it's all preference really. The controls are tight, the music and graphics are excellent, and you get to not only throw apples, but swing a sword in this version. The SNES game didn't. For Sega Genesis owners back in the day, Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition was the way to go for your one-on-one fighting game fix. To me, this is the fighting game to get, and is certainly one of the best on the console, if not the best. It featured the 4 boss characters as playable fighters for the first time, and the music and sound was just so darn good. The 3-button pad wasn't really the way to go, but despite that, it's solid all around, I think. Super Street Fighter II would come later on, but that game's sound and music couldn't hold a candle to this one. If you had to pick only one, pick Special Champion Edition.
You win!
going to keep this one brief, but Sonic 2 is a no-brainer and most likely in almost every Sega fan's library. The gameplay was faster, there was two-player action with Tails, and the addition of the spin dash move was just pure genius. It's almost crazy how cheap the game is even today, so in case you're new to buying for the Sega Genesis and don't have a copy of Sonic 2 yet, you should really fix that. If I were a betting man, I would have put my money down on XMen being at least $20 to $30 loose, but I'm happily wrong. This is another solid action platformer where you can take on the role of stalwart mutants like Wolverine, Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops to stop the evil Magneto. Who else? Each one has their trademark powers too, and you can summon a few other mutants to help join in for a special attack or to lend a helpful hand. From what I can remember, this was one of the more challenging games on the Sega Genesis, and if you're into like tough games, definitely give XMen a go.
Brain, but
You know nothing, little man.
By far, one of the best wrestling games on the console is hands down WWF Royal Rumble. You got Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Undertaker, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, among many others to play as. Yes, it's a button masher, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Especially with added game modes like Brawl Tournament Mode and the Royal Rumble itself. A lot of fun there. You can smack around the ref to use your illegal moves, and you have your finishers too, and you can pick up a steel chair or two, so hey, what's not to love about Royal Rumble? Closing in at $10 is MK2. Who didn't have a copy of this great cart or knew someone who had it back then? An excellent over-the-top violent tournament fighter that's even better with two players. Arguably, this sucker could take the top spot as best fighter on the Genesis. You really can't go wrong with MK2. More fatalities, stage fatalities, secret fighters, plenty of cheats. Even if the computer cheats with both hands, this is still a must-own. Yes, this is technically the 11th game featured here, but why not? Again, another tournament fighter, but how can you pass up a card like this when you and a buddy can beat the crap out of each other with gigantic dinosaurs? It does play a little different from holding buttons down and releasing them to pull off special moves, but otherwise it's a really fun game to get into. Plus it has some hilarious fatalities that the SNES version omitted. Well guys, there you go. 11 fun and cheap Sega Genesis games to consider adding into your libraries. Not all retro games are crazy expensive, especially on the Sega Genesis. There's still lots of great games to nab. I'm Will, for those about the retro, we salute you. Take care.
傑作を超えた超ド級の迫力ホラーアクションゲーム大魔界村セガ